Hello everyone, this is Anna from Cat Realty, and today I'm going to talk to you about Madeira Islands. For those of you who don't know, Cat Realty is a relocation and real estate investment agency that supports our clients in the whole process of moving from a different country to Portugal. We work in the whole of continental Portugal, and now we will be in Madeira too. And we help our clients find the right location, neighborhood, property, and settle in by giving them support all through the way and providing them basically with a friend on the inside to help do everything right from the first attempt. So, as I was saying, today I'm going to talk to you about Madeira. So far we hadn't had service in Madeira, but in truth we had so many inquiries about Madeira that, well, I had to go there. And I did. On the second week of January I did a business trip to Madeira, and I stayed there for a week and I explored quite a bit of the island, and I must say I was very positively impressed. I really like Madeira, and I'm very much looking forward to go there again, and like I was saying, I will be expanding my services there. So, a little bit about Madeira. Madeira is not a very big island, so it's 57 kilometers length and 22 kilometers width, which gives it a total area of 741 kilometers, which is not that much, but it's a good size. And it was a volcanic island that started forming millions of years ago, I believe 14 million years ago. And the volcanic activity has been inactive and extinct, as it has not been recorded for 6,000 years. So you won't be having a volcano to worry about there for sure. Another interesting fact about the island is that as volcanic area that was characteristics for very explosive eruptions, it is very steep, and it has a lot of mountains and very steep mountains and very high points. So over 65% of Madeira has over 25% steepness on its slopes, so you can see that that's steep. And because it was such an explosive eruptions, actually part of the island collapsed many thousands of years ago, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. So actually the small archipelagos that you have around the island, like Porto Santo, are actually part of the same formation. It's just that the rest of the island collapsed below the sea level, and only the main island and some of the peaks were left outside. A very interesting and positive side of all this steepness is that you basically have sea view pretty much everywhere. I mean, it's amazing because everything is so steep. The houses are built on a slope, kind of like stairs, and so no one really takes the view from the other people. And I would say that, I don't know, maybe 70 to 80% of property in Madeira has absolutely amazing views. And when I'm saying amazing, I really do mean amazing. Like, I really enjoyed the time I spent there in the views and the nature. It's an absolutely gorgeous island, and you will be able to see that it's really breathtaking. It's, even if you don't want to live on an island, I definitely recommend to go there just to visit, because on top of being absolutely beautiful, it's actually one of the best places when it comes to hospitality. So the hospitality industry in Madeira, I think it's considered the third best in the world, and it definitely lives up to its name. I mean, I've developed hotel projects, and I studied hotel management, and I have a lot of friends on the hospitality industry. I'm picky. I can be very demanding when it comes to hotels and hospitality. And the service in Madeira was absolutely amazing everywhere. I mean, there was maybe one or two places where we got someone that wasn't as outgoing, but they were still very good at their job, and overall it went above and beyond. I actually wasn't very happy with the hotel I was put into. I booked it through an agency, which I absolutely regret. So if you do book using an agency, don't use one of the main travel agencies unless you really want to do the run-to-the-mill kind of trip that everyone does, which was not what I wanted to do. And the travel agency put me in a hotel that was basically the opposite of what I requested. But the people on the hotel, the service was amazing. It was just not the right location or the right type of hotel. So we all ended up enjoying, I went with my sub-manager and we both really enjoyed everything about the trip. And we explored mostly the east side of the island because we didn't have time to explore everything, and of course Funchal. So Funchal is the biggest city in Madeira, and just so you are aware, Madeira has about 254,000 inhabitants, and about 160,000 are in Funchal. So almost half of the population of Madeira is in Funchal, and Funchal is a very big and popular city, and is also, of course, where the real estate is the most expensive. So in Funchal, depending of course on the condition and the type of property that you are looking for, the prices will be ranging between 3 and 4K. Maybe if you buy something a bit older, it will be a bit lower, but it will be more or less in that range, which is a fairly high range for Portugal. And it has a lot of foreign inhabitants. Like when I was in Madeira, we heard people from all over the world. And the people from Madeira really like their island and are very welcoming. So it's just an amazing cultural environment. And the city of Funchal is quite well developed culturally. And you have a lot of activities and restaurants, and you pretty much have everything there. That's one of the things I was positively impressed, is that it's a really nice city to live in. The limitation is of course being on an island, and in order to leave you have to go either by plane or by cruise. It's also a very popular cruise destinations where you constantly have cruises coming around, which brings a whole lot of people. So the real estate in Madeira is about, it's very high, and the prices are actually not that far from the prices in Porto. But if you go to other locations of the island, it's a complete different scenario. You will still be able to find properties below 1K in a lot of places, of course, not the big cities. And you will, even if you just go to the other side to Ponta Delgada, the average price is still between 1 and 2K. So you have very interesting opportunities from a real estate perspective, and the island has been developing a lot over the past years, and they also have building a lot of transportation infrastructure, because before you had mostly small national roads throughout the mountains. And I did mention before that very steep mountains. I don't really like driving in this kind of environment, but they made a bunch of, not highways, but speed routes to different points on the islands, and some of them were finished very recently, like months ago. So the accessibility to the other points of the islands have increased very drastically, which also means that there is very good opportunity for investment, because those areas will definitely be rising in prices as they became a lot more accessible. Our guide in Madeira was a local, and he was telling us that before these new accesses were built, it took like 2 hours to get to some points in the island, and now it's like 40 minutes, because you used to have to go up and down the mountain through the very swirly roads, and now you just go through the tunnels and pass through, which makes everything a lot faster. The airport in Madeira is also increasing in the number of flights. They now have direct flights to the US and Canada and a lot of other destinations, which is making Madeira more and more popular from a foreigner perspective. On top of this, the Madeira Island is still fully eligible for golden visa investment. And I honestly don't know how long this will be going to go on, especially for the golden visa, because golden visa on the continent is limited by population density. And I'm actually surprised that Funchal is not excluded, but it is eligible and it is still considered a low-density residential area, which means you can get a golden visa by buying property in Funchal. If you want new property, it can start from 350k, and if you are willing to renovate a property that is over 30 years old, it goes as low as 280k. So obviously it's a very interesting golden visa opportunity that it's still in Madeira, that I honestly don't know for how long it will be available. Some other interesting points about Madeira is that there is a lot of new construction happening. So I've been exploring, especially in Funchal, you see all kinds of new builds rising up. And also public development is happening quite well. So they are currently developing a public hospital center, and the city also has private hospitals and clinics. So you are very well provided when it comes to health. The public hospital is predicted to finish, I believe, in 2 years. But the private one is already fully working, including clinics, and you of course have public clinics too. So the city is developing very well, and you have a lot of options when it comes to new builds. On the city center though, you also see a lot of builds that need renovation. And that can also be an opportunity, but like everywhere in Portugal, what often happens with these buildings needing renovation is that they are kind of stuck. So either there aren't owners, the owners aren't known, or that they're stuck in the inheritance process. And that's one of the reasons a lot of property in Portugal is unrenovated and just falling apart. But on to nicer news. I really enjoyed the city of Madeira, and I explored it by day and by night. You have both nightlife and a lot of life during the day. You have quite a few museums and quite a few cultural characteristics that can be quite interesting. So of course Madeira Island is known by the wine, and it is also known by a few characteristic foods, and I'm very much a foodie, so I took a lot of pictures and I tried pretty much everything. One of the typical things in Madeira that I really like is lapis. So lapis is a shell that sticks to the rocks. So you can see the picture of what it is, and they usually do it with butter and lemon, and it's really good. But right now they are kind of restricting it because of excessive taking, and they have the gathering of lapis kind of limited, so it can be a bit harder to find. It's also typical there, the espetadas, so I don't know how to say that in English, but instead of doing them in a thin stick, they do them in a kind of a tree stick that is a bit larger, and they season it with louro, that I can't also remember the name in English, but I am I am divagating towards food because I really like food. But I ate very well in Madeira, and I definitely recommend going there and trying quite a few restaurants because the food was amazing. And I don't know if I was just lucky, but I mostly ate very well everywhere. And I was very well received, as I already mentioned. Regarding the city itself, it's steep, like everything, but you have quite a few walking areas and parks, and it's generally really nice. Like, we ended up staying in a hotel that was out of the center, and it was about a half an hour walk to get to the center. But it was actually pretty easy to do because it was along the coastline and it wasn't that steep. If you go more towards inside of the island, then you do get the very steep areas. And it's interesting that it's rather easy to see where the foreigners are and where the Portuguese people and local residents are, because the appearance of the neighborhoods is completely different. And you have the extra touristy side. That's where I ended up against my will. And where the main beaches are, and you have a lot of hotels in that area. Like, I was surprised with the sheer amount of hotels in Funchal. And the occupation is extremely high. So I went on low season, and it still was quite a lot of movement. And I think it was a good time to go, because I honestly don't enjoy to go when the tourists is in high and you just kind of feel like a canned sardine trying to get anywhere. So I enjoy going to places on the low season, and that's also where it's the best to see the locals and the local life. That it was also my goal. And like I was saying, it was still quite busy, so I imagine how it is when it's high season, where they have, like, I think in 2022 they had 85% average occupation. So that's a lot of people. And on top of that, they have the cruises. So I'm sure that during the high season, Madeira is absolutely crowded, especially Funchal. Then you have some very, very beautiful piscatory villages and smaller locations, like Câmara de Lobos. That is a gorgeous little pescatory village, and towards the other side you have another village, but with a completely different side to it, because Câmara de Lobos was made very touristic, and so you do have a lot of hotels and tourism happening. So towards the other side you have Santa Cruz. That is definitely a very local area with not a lot of tourism, so you can see a very very big difference on the type of life. And that's where the guide I hired lived in, that was also a local. And we went to a festival there, a popular festival, and saw all the crafts and so on. So it's really a different kind of environment and life, but it was very nice. It was actually where I ate the lapas. So it has this diversity where you have the cultural influences from the people that came from all over the world to Madeira, but you still have these regions where it's mostly locals. And you have these unique cultural characteristics and the very typical Portuguese kind of village life. We also went to the center of the extinct volcano, so that's Câmara de Freiras, and we got an absolutely amazing view there, and there was a beautiful rainbow. And that is one of those locations that is extremely cheap, and it's not that far from Funchal. It's like 40 minutes drive, I believe. We went by bus. And the real estate is extremely cheap there, because not a lot of people want to live in the crater, I guess, and they also have a lot of chestnut there. And we tried a few things that were with chestnut, like chestnut soup and chestnut queijada, that is a cake made with fresh cheese, and in this case it also took chestnuts. So yes, Madeira is a very interesting place from a cultural perspective, and it has a bit of diversity of landscape. You have the mountain landscape, and then you have the sea landscape, and it's a very interesting contrast, because you are in the middle of the mountains, like in Curral das Freiras, and you just turn to the other side and there's the sea. So it's definitely a beautiful experience, and I definitely recommend visiting. And like I also said before, the nature is absolutely gorgeous. You have a lot of amazing natural sights to see and gardens. You have the Madeira Botanical Garden, which is gorgeous, and then you have some private gardens, the Tropical Garden, and you have a lot of very interesting hiking and trekking routes, and where you can see a lot of Madeira's nature and waterfalls and all kinds of beautiful natural places. So like I was saying, we will be starting service in Madeira very soon. I'm still on the hiring process, and I do train all my agents internally, and they do have access to our legal and technical team. So everyone that works with us get legal advisory included, and also technical verification by engineers included in the service. And I'm still on the selection process, but I'm hoping to start providing service in Madeira between March and April. If you do want, and if you are interested in Madeira and your timeline to purchase there is from April forward, definitely reach out to us and book a discovery call in order for us to understand your needs and understand if what you are looking for is a good match for our services and vice versa. And we would love to help you find your perfect location in Madeira and help you get integrated there, because that's what we do. Since I have recorded this video about Madeira in January and it is now April, some information has changed. In fact, the golden visa situation has changed drastically, as the government has been proposing a new housing protection measures to protect the Portuguese residents from the drastic inflation and rental crisis that we are facing. And one of the measures that was proposed was the end of the golden visa program. This measure has not been confirmed yet, and it's still under approval on the Parliament. However, it is very likely that it will move forward and that the Golden Visa program will be terminated. If you wish to know more about what is happening regarding these new proposals and what the Portuguese government is doing, how it can affect investors and the market, you can find a link to the webinar we did about these new measures on the description below, and you can watch it in order to have more clarification. So I hope that if you are going to Madeira, you will reach out to Savicat soon, and we will be talking soon.